Yeah, boy.
Heavy machine gun!
Hello guys, finally welcome to the Palefire Mastery. Sorry for the delay, because my mic had a problem and it took like fucking 2 months to fix it. And so here we are now. In this video we are going to talk about his kit, how to play him, his builds, how you can utilize him, his weapons, which one ever works for him, and his teams and synergies. First, let's take a look at his kits. The first part of his kit is his red orb. He fires 15 quick shots of physical damage. Pretty long range, you can apply that to basically any enemies. His yellow orb, however, fires an AoE fire attack, which is also his switch in attack. His blue orb does big physical damage, which you can use basically anywhere just to clear out. You don't need to actually utilize this as much as the yellow and red orbs, because that's gonna come in handy later when it comes to his core passive. His basic attacks are nothing special, just deals physical damage, nothing special at all. His signature move is pretty special because you become invincible and does consecutive physical damage and deals fire damage for the last shot, basically making you last longer on the battlefield. His QTE basically deals physical damage and inflict electrocute, makes targets take extra physical damage for 5 seconds. Doesn't really matter that much because you are going to use him on field for a lot of time. His attacker passive basically just makes him deal more damage. Ultima just gives him 3 signal orbs while entering the battlefield. Finally, we're getting into the nitty-gritty of his kit, which is his passives. His first passive is his core passive, which is very easy to trigger. Every red orb triggered after a yellow orb does a rapid fire AoE fire damage. It's the creme de la creme, the juicy portion of his kit, which is like you basically just do this all the time. You don't even need to use 3 pings for this. It's just that good and easy to trigger. His leader passive, basically you need this. Since he is an A rank, this is unlockable after reaching S rank. Recommended to unlock it immediately because this makes your whole team deal more damage basically. The SS rank passive, basically hitting an enemy in the yellow orb AoE does more damage. That's it. That's pretty easy. And then the SSS rank passive gets extra damage bonus before taking hit. Basically after switching into him, you will get this buff, minding the 10-second cooldown after you lost the buff. SSS plus rank passive basically just adds more damage to his core passive by a whopping 20%. So if you are a real Lee enthusiast, I really recommend you just farm this in his interludes. My final thoughts about his kits: I recommend you get him to SS to deal good enough damage for Pain Cage and Warzone. But since he is an A rank, he is farmable in the interludes. Get him to what you want, basically. Now let's get into his builds. His general go-to build, you want 4-piece Shakespeare to deal more fire damage, and 2-piece Darwin for more attacks. More attack based on the amount of orbs you've pinged. The high action build you can also use basically just for DPS. For any DPS you can use this build. 4-piece Hannah, more damage for 3 pings, enters Matrix when triggering a 3 ping and 1 random orb. Have a decent amount of cooldown. 2-piece Darwin, again, more attack based on the amount of orbs you've pinged. Or if you are just starting, and happen to have Lee, I guess you could use an early game build. You should use 4-piece Ike, essentially the best elemental DPS memory for early game, giving you damage bonus, have a 15% chance to inflict burn, electrocute, frost, and corruption depending on the wielder's element, which is amazing to be honest with you. But again, this is a 5-star piece which lost its creaminess because of the amount of attack that you get from it. 2-piece Ife to give him more damage bonus for each orbed ping. So now let's move on to the resonance. I only should say that only the main build is needed for the resonance. Precision, attack, giving you attack plus 15, crit plus 15 on the top slot, controlling bullet, this core passive on the bottom slot. Basically, this is like how you can min-max your Lee. If you are a whale, you can do this, but again, I do not recommend you to reroll when resonating because it is very serum intensive. Hypertuning, however, generally speaking, only resonate the bottom row memory sets to get more attack. But if you love Lee that much, I think you can do whatever, just fully resonate him because he is simply a really fun character to play. And now let's move on to his weapons. The Wolfang is obviously his best in slot weapon since it is his signature weapon. You get extra damage bonus when attacking enemies in the yellow orb area of effect. However, if you do have 0 scale, it is a really good stat stick since you have a really high attack and really high crit, but at the same time it is pretty useless because of his passive can only be triggered by a certain other Lee entropy, of course. Next up we have Scion. It is a good stat stick, but I have pretty mixed feelings about this weapon because I don't know if it could properly trigger. But the passive, from just reading it, I think it is a decent passive when playing with Sophia, because if you pick the orb, you can definitely get the passive that it gives. The extra damage bonus can be stacked up to 5 times, which giving you a max total of 15%. I think it is a pretty decent passive, I think. Next up is the best in slot for F2Ps. It is a good stat stick, again, decent stats. Passive gives extra damage after triggering all the orb's colors once. Don't care like the sequence you use it, just reminding that you need all 3 of the orbs to use, and then you get the extra damage bonus. This passive is really reliable because it's just extra damage, not minding physical or elemental, so it's really good. Again, we have the 4-star version. Is good for if you're just starting the game. I think it is very good, but eventually I recommend you just to upgrade to Gloomlight because it is better overall. And the passive of this 4-star doesn't give you any benefits at all because it's physical damage. No, don't use this, just don't, no. Now let's talk about Lee's team. I'd recommend you put Lee in the blue slot and being him the leader because he doesn't really use blue orbs at all, to be honest with you. Unless you just want to clear up for the red and yellow orbs. Nanami Pulse in the red slot will be using DPS set, 4-piece Shakespeare and 2-piece Einsteina if Sophia is using Da Vinci. Use 4-piece Da Vinci and 2-piece Einsteina for Res Shred and QTE buffs if, again, Sophia is using other than that. Sophia Silverfang will be the starter and in the yellow slot. She also will be holding 2-piece Gloria, Lantern, and Guinevere for low investment build. But again, I'd recommend you using 4-piece Da Vinci and 2-piece Guinevere for extra healing, and again QTE buffs from Da Vinci is actually fucking cracked. She already have a decent 4-piece Da Vinci eventually. For future characters, this is really important because since we have already know that Liv Empress is coming on the next patch, definitely, will be a massive power spike to the fire team, including Karenina Amber, thus replacing Sophia. Nana Mecha will come the update after anniversary update, yes. After Selena will replace Pulse because basically she's just better at dealing damage and resistance shreds. Now I will show you how to play him. Basically, I'll just show you on the screen without any talking. So that's it for my league guide, or mastery should I say. I've been thinking of making a guide for our boy Roland because his kit is pretty complex and I'm seeing a lot of people thinking that he's not good enough, perhaps because of it's kind of complicated to play him, but I find his gameplay pretty fun in my opinion. So I guess hit that subscribe button, ring that bell for notifications, and I'll see you guys in the next guide, mastery. I don't know how this would work. I think I should just make it a series at this point. Thank you for tuning in. I hope I'll see you guys on the next video. Goodbye.